while you're meeting, we're going to go ahead and continue with our program. It's getting a little late in the evening, and we have our guest speaker. We're going to be bringing him up momentarily. Before we do that, I'm just going to, like I said, most of your kids are just involved in the mentoring program, but I just want to give you an overview of the Lexington PAL program itself. And I believe maybe when you came in and you signed in, there were some other informational sheets about PAL. So if you don't have one of those, make sure when you leave that you grab one of those, because we want your kids to take advantage of all the opportunities that PAL offers, not just the mentoring program, which has been a great program for your kids to be in. We have so much more to offer them. Most of our programs, activities start as early as age 4 with our T-ball and go all the way up to 18. And I'm not going to read all of them, but it includes the mentoring, we have tutoring, we have the boxing program for some of the older kids, we have arts and craft that has been connected to our tutoring program. And so those are just to name a few of them. Just to give you a little bit of history about PAL, as far as Lexington, our PAL program started back in 1985. And it actually started with basically one officer, and that was Officer Roy Martis. And Officer Roy Martis is deceased now. He actually got killed in the line of duty. And he actually began going up to Bluegrass Aspenville area and just simply playing a game of football with some of the kids up there. From that, there was a few more officers that joined him, and then before long they started, I believe they started out actually doing a football program and actually played in the league in Nicholasville, and then became involved in the Parks and Recreation here in Lexington. And then from that, we expanded, and so we were just proud that we've been in existence now since 1985. The other part that's going to be really important is not only if we have the Lexington PAL here, but our PAL is also members of the National PAL organization. National PAL is actually going to be celebrating its 100th year in 2014. PAL actually started in New York City, and from there we have PALs across the United States. You know, probably over about 350, 400 chapters across the United States, in the Virgin Islands. We even have one in Nigeria. So they actually, the gentleman from Nigeria actually attends our National PAL Conference, which I will be attending in May. I also serve on the National PAL Board of Directors, and I've been serving on the board since about 2003 as the Region 5 Director, and that Region 5 includes about 12 or 13 states in my region. And so what I do is I keep in contact with those people. Sometimes if they can't get a hold of the national office, I'll relay information like the grants that we have, because sometimes information may get lost from them, so I usually try to follow up and make sure all the chapters are aware of what's going on. So like I said, PAL started, and it's really, the whole purpose is to build that relationship between law enforcement and the youth, and then therefore it's going to benefit the community, changing attitudes people feel about police, and things like that. So a lot of times when we're doing activities on the basketball court, the football field, the baseball field, here in the tutoring, you see myself, or you see there's also 4 other PAL officers that are sworn officers that are involved. Unfortunately, they're not here, but that's because they're doing other programs. We have right now, we have basketball going on, we have baseball, and we're actually ready to start T-ball. So there's a lot going on with only 5 officers, and we're able to do that not only with the 5 police officers, or 4 police officers and myself, a safety officer, but we have a host of volunteers, like your mentors that have been working with your children. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do this PAL program. Ms. Deborah is going to introduce our guest speaker, but he also was very supportive at that time when he was the chief of the police department at that time. So if it wasn't for the upper management that allows us to do these programs, you know, we wouldn't be able to do these things here in the community. So we're very fortunate that we have a chief, and even our current chief, that is very supportive of our PAL, our PAL program and the efforts that we're doing. So, like I said, if you could, there is a sheet on the table here. When you go out, be sure to grab one. It'll tell you what PAL is, our mission, and it also has our location. The Andrew Center is just one of 3 locations that we have, and we also have a gym in addition to those other 2 locations that our boxing is at. So that information is on here, and on the back It also lists all of our activities, which is, you'll see that we do a whole lot of activities. So be sure to see if your kids may be interested in doing something else. So make sure you grab that before you leave this evening. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and bring Ms. Deborah Lawson back up, and you're going to introduce our speaker.
How was your dinner?
Good.
Thank you.
We want to thank Ms. Grace Williams for our superb dinner. She catered for us. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here, but I think we can give her a round of applause. As I try to introduce Mr. Beatty, I'm reminded of his status in the community, his commitment to our community and to family. I tried to shorten his bio due to time restraint, but because of all of his accolades, I couldn't do that. His hard work and accomplishments must be acknowledged. So bear with me for a few moments. Anthony Beatty Sr. began his law enforcement career in 1973 as an officer with the University of Kentucky Police Department. In 1973, he joined the Lexington PAL Division of Police. He is a graduate of Eastern Kentucky University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Police Administration. In 1980, he earned a master's degree in Public Administration with an area of concentration in Human Resources Management from Kentucky State University. Mr. Beatty, in August of 2001, made history in Lexington as the first African American to serve as Chief of Police and received tremendous support from the community. He had a unique and historic distinction of attaining every rank in the department, from officer to sergeant, lieutenant to captain, major, and assistant chief. Mr. Beatty retired in 2008 with 35 years of law enforcement service and served as the chief of Lexington for 7 years. Mr. Beatty serves on very many boards, too numerous to mention, and he is also a graduate of the FBI prestigious National Executive Institute and the U.S. Secret Service Executive Protection Program. In 2005, Mr. Beatty was appointed by the IACP president to serve on the Committee for Cultural Diversity and Recruitment. He has also represented several workshops and served on numerous panels for both IACP and NOBLE, which will hold its annual conference in Lexington in July. Now he currently serves as an Assistant Vice President for Campus Services at the University of Kentucky. He and his wife of 34 years, Dr. Eunice Beatty, created a foundation to assist youth with overcoming obstacles to succeed. The Anthony and Eunice Beatty Foundation was created upon their retirement and has funded many initiatives impacting the lives of young people throughout this area. They are actively involved with the New Vine Baptist Church of Lexington, where Mr. Beatty serves as a deacon, treasurer, and youth advisor. To their union, they have 2 sons and 5 grandchildren. On a personal note, I have known Mr. Beatty and his family since I was a young child. His family grew up in the same neighborhood as I did. We have always respected you, and I'm very honored that you agreed to speak here tonight. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Anthony Beatty Sr.
Good evening, everyone. And first, I want to thank Deborah for that introduction. If you think you've been uncomfortable in your life, have people sit in an audience and have somebody read about your life. It's probably the most uncomfortable situation you can be in. And let me start by saying I have to give accolades to the State Councilor Connie Rayford and to Deborah for her work with the mentoring program, as well as Lativia Pretty. I just met her here tonight. But I think Connie probably didn't do any justice to her role and involvement with the PAL program because she basically is PAL. She makes it happen in terms of that and the administrative part of PAL. And we deeply, deeply appreciate her work, not only here for the local PAL program, but certainly on the national level. She represents us very well. When I say us, I mean Lexington. She represents us very well with her role and her notoriety throughout the country about PAL programs. So she's been very creative, as well as Deborah and Lativia have, with finding funding and ways to do programming to help the young people in our community. And that's what's so critical here for us here in Lexington. How do we help our young people to get to that next phase of life, being adulthood, and do it safely, and in a wholesome environment with all the skills they need to deal with and cope with all the things that life throws at them. And with that, I want to commend each of you who are here tonight who have played an important role of some fashion with young people in our community, whether you're a parent, a mentor, an associate, someone who helps out. Your role is very critical for the development of young people here in Lexington. And Connie was talking up here, I was just thinking about the position I've been put in, and all we're here at church, everybody knows the feeling after that evening service you have, after you've had morning service, then there's a meal. And then after the meal, there's a period where you sit down and you don't really want to be there, and the preacher gets started, and it rolls on pretty slow, and then the meal kicks in and you go to sleep. Well, I'm not a preacher, and I'm not going to do that here tonight. I'm going to be very brief, so if you will bear with me just a couple of moments. I do have a couple of things I want to say, and I do want to say them, number one, about the folks who are mentoring and helping young people, and then just a short message to young people about life and about success. So if you'll bear with me, we'll do just that. I want to thank Pastor Gaines for his involvement and the opportunity to house PAL here as we know it now. I know they were looking for a home once upon a time and they got moved out because the buildings got sold. But he worked out some kind of arrangement whether they're here. We appreciate that. Not only Reverend Gaines or Pastor Gaines and Consolidated, but all the churches that they supported, Lexington Police and certainly Consolidated has been a big player in that. They're actually for our Noble Conference. Noble is a national organization of black law enforcement executives. In July, we'll bring about 1,600 members to Lexington, and these are folks with a rank of lieutenant or above in police organizations at federal, local, and state levels, and some international partners also. And they'll be here in Lexington for a week in July. As we speak, and when I leave here tonight, we'll be joining the leaders of that organization in Lexington for 2 days, looking the facilities over. Consolidated will host what's called a Memorial March. Those of you who are members here heard from Assistant Chief Jackson and Assistant Chief Henderson yesterday, so Consolidated will be a big player in that. So we appreciate Pastor Gaines and everyone who's made this happen, all the folks who, everybody involved from the setup of the facility and the meal. Certainly we have enjoyed that too. My wife Eunice and I did grow up here in the inner city of Lexington in the Bluegrass Aspendale housing project, which does not exist anymore. It's a very nice family environment up there with a school in the middle of it off of 6th Street and 5th Street and Ray Street. But when we grew up there back in the 50s and 60s, it certainly was a nice neighborhood then, different from what it evolved into in the 80s and 90s. And certainly was a place where families were there and everyone was responsible for raising the kids. So we understand the importance of mentors, our people who care for you, our people that leg up, or give you that bit of insight or wisdom that helps you to the next phase of life. And for that reason, we try to involve in the community, particularly in terms of helping young people reach their goals. So mentoring is critical. Being involved with young people is critical for their skills, and we just want to discuss that for a couple of minutes. And I have to go back to the community that we grew up in as African Americans in Bluegrass Aspendale, because back then the community was much more segregated, and it truly took the African proverb, it took a village to raise a child. And it truly was just that kind of environment. Everyone in that community had a hand in raising us. Literally, sometimes they had a hand in raising us. Raising us. They needed to. And our parents gave them permission to do that if needed be. So you knew that you'd be corrected by anyone around. Tom was shaking his head up here, he was nearby. Anyone around had to go ahead to correct and lead and direct and mentor us. And when I think back about that, that was important because I didn't realize that that was truly mentoring, probably physical mentoring if there is such an animal, but it was mentoring. It was telling us what we were doing was wrong, and they certainly have the authority to change that if they have to. And again, growing up in Bluegrass Aspendale housing projects and going to an all-black school, the Constitution before the school